Hi everyone, and welcome to the All Things ITSM Global Podcast, coming to you from Service Management 2015 in Sydney. I'm Kirsty McGowan. I'm here with co-hosts Tristan Boot.
Hello.
Ivor McFarlane.
Hello.
And we're now talking to Peter McKenzie from Syntegral. Hi Peter, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
The buzz phrase at the moment, the fashionable word is SIAM. But you've actually been doing service integration long before it became fashionable.
Yes.
What's your take on it? And I know you're working on a new book, and we can touch on that as well.
Right. So there's, in a lot of ways, very fortunate because in around about 2004, we got an opportunity with General Motors to do a service integration from scratch. They had an end of a 10-year outsourcing deal with EDS. They were going to move to a model-based outsourcing with standardised services, and we had the opportunity to actually consider what would we do to make this thing work. It's a fairly unusual opportunity to actually get.
Yeah, indeed.
So what we did, we had a series of methodologies that we were using to unpick what we call accidental multi-sourcing, where people had arrived at a multi-supplier environment without any particular plan on how to do that. So there's a gentleman I was working with in IBM who had a very good methodology for doing that. And what we did is we said, why do we do it that way? Why don't we think about the end rather than where we are?
Yep.
How would we set it up so we don't have to unpick it? And that was the basis for what we did. And we got the opportunity through the planning phase and the bidding phase to actually design something from scratch that was designed to meet that need. So that's where it all started for me.
As I've said, you've in the process of having a book published on SIAM.
Correct. I've always brought a few of us together from around the world. So Dave Arms from England, we've got Nicholas Engelhardt from Stockholm, and we have Peter Wiggers from Amsterdam. It's been a fascinating process. It is my first book. I've written some white papers, but this is my first book, possibly my last.
It's quite a process, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's a fascinating process, and we spent quite a lot of time, forming that team. The forming, storming, norming to build the team. There was a lot of ideas that were coming from different places. We had a lot of different opinions about things, so we had to spend time to actually thrash those through. What we arrived at was a conclusion that there isn't one answer to SIAM.
Right.
There are. You have to think about the world's not standardised enough in this way yet. It's not like the ITIL space where you can go into an organisation and say, okay, we're going to have a change process, we're going to have a problem process, we're going to have an incident process. SIAM is a little different. It's a little more immature, and it's a people thing. It's not a technology thing at all.
It's interesting to me to see actually something sort of new and starting to mature like this, because I used to get a little bit upset that, as vendors, you just get procurement and, get your finance department to deal with them and it's all good. And should we say that finance departments by nature don't tend to be particularly people focused? And it is, that relationship side of it is massive, isn't it?
It is, and one of the things that we discovered through General Motors is it's not a single dimension that you have to solve here. So General Motors went through a very innovative process where they brought their suppliers in who wanted to bid on the future state work, and we're talking about, I think it was $3.8 billion per annum worth of work, and bring that into global standard contracts. To do that, they said, we have to standardise the way we go to contract. So they had a standardised cross-functional scope of work. Every supplier had the same service management requirements with the same service levels associated with them. So what we had done then is we ended up with contracts that actually matched the operational processes, which was special. It's an unusual thing to actually start that way, particularly on something that large. The step that we took next was to actually bring the technical architecture and align it to that same model. So the service that you plan, the service that you build, and the service that you run is the same service and comes from the same place. So you can actually properly outsource that thing and say, I know who's accountable for delivering that component to me. And then we put the structure of aggregation of services on top of that. It worked quite well. It was, I think, one of the few SIAM contracts that didn't get reconstructed along the way in those early days. It actually was renewed after 5 years.
Right. That's good.
I haven't followed up that case study to
It's
find out
certainly
if
a
they've
good sign of
retained it
success
10 years later.
that they carried on with it. A previous guest we had on the podcast was also talking about SIAM and saying what they had to remind their customer of is that you actually can't outsource the responsibility and the accountability parts of it, and I think that is something that some organisations think they can do. We're handing all this over to someone else, so we don't have to worry about it anymore.
No, the process of delegation
Yes.
is a very important process. To delegate effectively,
Yes.
you have to delegate the authority to act
Yes.
and share the responsibility
Yes.
and accountability.
Yeah.
So if you follow that delegation model, it's interesting when people talk about, I call them RASIC charts because I like the S for supports.
Yes.
But when you talk about those charts, everyone says, where does the A go? If you follow the accountability chain, it goes back to the CEO for everything.
Yeah.
But where we put the A is the first point of accountability.
Right. Yeah.
And that's really one of those things that we have to talk about a lot to explain how those charts work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that's true outside the service integration mode as well. When you're teaching RACI charts, you know, the first time they do it, you find God is accountable for everything.
Yes.
It's not a helpful
It's
answer.
not
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah.
And actually trying to persuade people that when in doubt you should bring that level down, not up, is a major learning point.
Yes.
And it certainly applies in the service integration side as well. I think it's interesting. Back to the book, I think it's one of the interesting things about this book is that having brought the first 3 authors together and having been doing that for 2 years, you still haven't met each other.
Right.
And it's an interesting situation for the modern age that is actually a practical way to work together.
Yeah,
So
it
I think
certainly
those
wouldn't have worked 10 or 15 years ago.
so
But,
as well as the service integration aspects of the book, I think there's a case study coming out of that as well in remote collaboration.
And remote collaboration, I had an example with some clients years ago where we built some teams to do Follow the Sun. So we acquired some staff in London and Atlanta, and we had a team in Sydney. So we'll build them into a Follow the Sun team. And we tried telecom, and it didn't work. So we tried video conferencing, and the body language was horrible. So we actually realised you had to get the staff to meet each other. So we invented a reason to get Atlanta to come to Sydney, Sydney to go to London, and London to go to Atlanta. After that, the collaboration worked fine.
Right.
We didn't need video because it's all about establishing a relationship and trust.
Yes.
Got to break that.
I think we are, as an organisation, as a community, getting better at establishing trust without being face to face.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a talk at the ITSM UK a few years back. Someone had actually done their PhD on remote groups, and the conclusion was very simple. They must physically meet first, and they must drink and eat together, and only after that will it work remotely afterwards.
Yes.
And it's interesting that the degree of social interaction we have is maybe weakening that a little bit, but there's still massive power. But as you said, what worked in the book was that the first dozen weekly meetings actually were mostly social chit-chat.
Yes.
And so we established that and worked forward.
You've still established that relationship. It's going to be fascinating to see over the next, sort of 5-10 years if that dynamic actually changes. Because I find the same thing, and from previous roles where you're dealing with people sort of, in India or the UK, those kind of things from New Zealand, and you're doing okay and you're achieving your goals, but it's not until you actually, like you said, you sit down, you break bread with them, you meet them and have that social interaction that it's that it works. So maybe we need to share a pie over a video link and it might work.
Virtual pie is an interesting.
It's interesting though, when you look at Gen Ys and the enormous amount of trust that they will generate into social media. Okay, they're interacting purely on a text basis. Maybe it's because of that anonymity that they have. They give an enormous amount of trust to that interaction, and perhaps that's a generational change that will start to break down some of those barriers as well.
The way we're working is certainly a long way from where it was 10 years ago.
So back to service integration and SIAM to end it with. So this book will help people take it forward. When's it going to be published? Is it something people should be putting in there, asking Father Christmas for?
I certainly hope so. It's due out next month. It's in final review at this stage. There's probably some comments, but be with the publishers next month.
So yeah, it should be ready to buy your friends for Christmas.
Yeah.
So I know what to expect now, either.
Absolutely.
A book on SIAM, I think you'll enjoy that one in your Christmas stocking.
Oh, yeah.
Don't give it to your wife.
To find a wife first.
Yeah, he needs one of those. Very good. Well, thank you for your time chatting with us this morning, Peter.
I appreciate
It's been a pleasure,
it.
and I look forward to seeing the results of all your hard work. So what's the book actually called?
Ooh, working title's still out for debate, isn't it?
Yeah, there's two options up at the moment, but it's got the word SIAM in it.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Yeah.
And we've actually decided on the cover picture, though, which is formation skydiving.
Oh, very good.
You'll have to read the forward to find out why.
Okay, excellent. I look forward to
Are
it.
you in the picture?
Depends which picture we use, but
Oh, right. Ivor did mention that you're into the skydiving.
yes,
route.
we're in the US in May. We set a new
Yep.
Australian record.
Oh,
so
wow.
New Australian record's 119.
Well done.
Fantastic.
The world record's 400.
Great. Thank you very much, Peter.